Broadcasting from the Keep Moving Forward Creator Studios, it's time for the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. This limited release show features the stories of the 2019 contestants of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's athletic competition, NBC's The Titan Games. Now here's your host, Katie Galley.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. I'm your host, Katie Galley. In the Keep Moving Forward Creator Studio with me today, I have Titan Games athlete, horseback riding clinic assistant, and fitness coach, Kris Rugloski. How are you doing, Kris?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thanks so much for stopping by and sharing your story with us.
Mm-hmm.
So just to kind of kick things off, I wonder, Kris, where did you grow up and how, if at all, was your childhood shaped by athletics?
I was born in Arizona, lived there till I was 8. And then we moved to Texas, and I've lived in Texas pretty much ever since. I was not involved in any sports growing up, didn't really do a whole lot of I grew up in a large family. There were 8 of us kids, and we were homeschooled our whole lives. So we spent a lot of time playing around outside, playing with each other, and definitely stayed active. You know, we had a trampoline, and we'd mess around. We kind of tried every sport more or less just playing in our backyard.
Yeah.
We really didn't have any formal experience with sports at all. We would my dad owned a business, so with the local chamber of commerce there was a 5K twice a year, I think, and he would have a couple free spots with through his business being a part of that. So twice a year there was this 5K, and it was always like, hey, like, who wants to run the 5K? And my 2 older brothers were pretty good runners, and they did some track and soccer. But, there were always several of us that would run, and I would always try to run it and try to run the entire thing. But like 3 miles was a really long ways to run.
Yeah.
And it was, wasn't training for anything. So that's about the, sports wise, it was just messing around with friends and with my siblings and running a 5K twice a year.
Yeah.
It wasn't until after high school that I I tried an obstacle course race and was like, wow, I was kind of underwhelmed for the first couple ones. I did a Tough Mudder.
Oh.
And the Tough Mudders are very much like they encourage the community aspect and have fun and get outside, and it wasn't competitive. So it was kind of like, oh, this is fun and I'm not too bad at this, but it's not that hard. But then it was, at I guess 19, 20, I found the more competitive side of Spartan races and of, other obstacle course races, and started running those. And that's what got me into fitness, honestly. So childhood wasn't really affected by fitness, just staying active. My dad was definitely, he played hockey and soccer throughout his childhood and growing up. So we were definitely like fit and healthy and active, but no sports. At all.
Yeah, but it's incredible too to have that opportunity where you started off at an early age, not really into organized athletics, but later in life in your 20s, having that opportunity to get into them. And so what sparked your interest initially with these obstacle course races?
To me, it was really appealing because I'm tall and I should be good at running. And, so it's kind of like, oh, you'd be a good runner, but I hated running. Running was absolutely miserable. So trying the obstacle course race, it was like you run for a little while, but then you get to take a break and do some fun obstacle, climbing over a wall, climbing up something, doing monkey bars. So I loved that, you cover 3 to 5 miles in the shorter distance obstacle course races, but it's not just continual running. And the other thing that was really appealing about it was it's on trails. So you're, out running outside. It's not just running on the road. It was out, you're out in nature, running on trails, getting to see really cool places, and you get a break every little bit, and you get to do a fun obstacle.
Yeah. So
that's what really, I was like, oh, this is really fun. I can actually do that. I can run for a distance as long as I get a break.
Right. That sounds like a lot of fun. Having that opportunity to do all these different obstacles you're still running, but you have, like you're saying, that break, you have that opportunity to do something different, to change it up a little bit.
Exactly.
So when you, it's interesting too, though, you said when you first started being underwhelmed by kind of the ones that you found initially before you started to find the more competitive Spartan races and everything.
Yeah.
So I guess, but it's interesting too that your life, though you had your dad playing sports and you had grown up kind of just messing around with your siblings and your friends, that competitive drive was still innately in you. And so when you started getting into
Oh, yeah.
obstacle course racing, it was, you still were missing something, even though you didn't have that background or experience in organized athletics. You realize, okay, I still want something more. That's really an interesting path too. So then it led you to finding. So then, how did you ultimately end up on this path of finding these more competitive races, and what drove you to get there?
Yeah. It was, so the first couple ones I did, well, I did, so I did that Tough Mudder, and, everybody talks about, I'd heard about obstacle course races,
Mm-hmm.
people talk about them. It's a big thing and people train for whatever. And I went out there and I was like, everybody walks at some point, like nobody's actually racing.
Mm.
And these obstacles, while challenging, they're absolutely doable for anybody that has, just basic upper body strength and, like a functioning body. Like pretty much anybody can do them. And so I went from that. I'd heard the Spartans were harder, more challenging. And if you fail an obstacle, there's a penalty. So I thought, well, I'll do a Spartan. So I went and did they have like 3 distances, and or 3 primary distances, I guess. It's right about like a 3 to 5 mile one, and then they have an 8 to 10 mile one, and then a 12 to 14. And I thought, but the Tough Mudder had been 10 miles, I think. So I thought, well, I can do that 12 to 14 mile one. So I went and I did that one, and it was again like, I just did it in the open wave, because there's, elite competitive runners in the morning, and then it's just anybody can go out there and try it out. So I went out there and I tried it, and it was still like, it was harder. It's definitely a bit more challenging. Having to do a penalty was harder, but I was like, it's not that, it's not anything I'd really have to train for. To complete it, I didn't have to train for it. But then I figured that since they have their 3 distances and they have what they call a trifecta, if you get all 3 of them, it's kind of like a little achievement. So I thought, well, I'll do the other 2 distances. And that summer I moved out to the East Coast and I went and did their shortest distance. And on that one, I ran in the open, but I was like, I'm going to try to run as fast as I can and get through this, like really try to push myself. So I went and I did it, and I finished, and I was the fastest female open time. I think one of the fastest open times, period.
Wow.
And I felt like, oh, wow, that's cool. So it really wasn't until, and then I did another one after my job that summer was really busy. I was hoping to, race, because out on the East Coast, there's a lot out there. But it wasn't until, the fall that I found several on the East Coast that I was going to go do. So I did several races in a weekend and actually podiumed in one that I did up in Canada. And that's where I thought like, oh, I'm good at this. I really enjoy this. Let's see what else we can do with this. So it wasn't until I, realized I was good and competitive in this that I was like, oh, this is a lot of fun. And this is something I could really, I'm already good, but I could absolutely improve and become better.
Yeah.
And then from there, it was still, after I did all 3 of the distances several times, got a double trifecta. And then, starting to meet people at these races, I heard about what they call their Ultra Beast, which is 26 to 30 miles and like 60 some obstacles. And at first I thought like, that's absolutely crazy. But then it was like, well, people are doing it. You have enough time to complete it. I want to try that. So I came back to Texas at the end of the fall in October and went ahead and did that and died. I almost died. I'd never run that distance ever before. Still had no idea like how to train or anything. But I did that one and came in 3rd place and was like, I can do these longer distances too. So it's been, it's just kind of been a constant, well, I can do that. Like, what else is there to do? So then I heard about a 50 miler, and this is just trail running, but you run 50 miles. And it was the same, like, that's crazy, but people are doing it and it is possible. So I want to try it. So I, did a 50 miler, and it's just been, it's finding this world of trail races, obstacle course races, where people basically come up with these crazy ideas and then actually compete and and there's cash prizes for the top finishers. There's obviously the community within them, and all the people I've met have been absolutely amazing. And so it's been fun to, you hear about something crazier and like, whoa, that's crazy, but I want to try it.
Yeah.
But through that, I actually met my now fiance at an obstacle course race and moved out to Houston area to be closer to him, and found there's a gym in the area that is an OCR focused gym. They have, group fitness classes, but they also have a lot of obstacles, and they have training specifically for obstacle course racing. So I found that, got on their pro team, and started training with the one of the owners about this time last year. And since then, it's just been, it's been really neat to see the consistent training and the setting goals, training for them, and completing them. It's been really, really rewarding. I'm starting to feel like, okay, I might be an athlete,
Yeah.
because before it's just like, oh, I'm going to go try this. Oh, I'll try that. And like, wow, I did that. Like, neat. But now I'm starting to have the training, watching my body change, feeling progress, and, becoming a better athlete, stronger, faster, all of that.
Yeah.
So it's been really neat. It's honestly, been a journey to become an athlete, period.
Right.
But yeah.
That's so cool because it's the fact again that it happened later in life, but it was just you have that competitive drive. It was always within you, and then like you're saying, you wanted to run those longer distances, even though it was something you'd never done before. You learn about an ultra beast, learn about a 50 miler, and then you just said, okay, I want to do that, and it's just making those decisions to continuously move forward in this newfound sport that you had. And that was actually my follow-up question was when you touched on it now, moving to Houston, and joining your gyms then obstacle course racing team. So now, is this being an obstacle course racer? Are you a sponsored athlete? Is this something that you do full time?
It's not something that I do full time. Obstacle course racing is still a fairly new sport.
Okay.
And I believe it's the greatest sport. I think it is the absolute, like the most well-rounded test of a good athlete. Because, you have to be fast.
Yeah.
You have to be able to run. You have to be strong and like throw your body weight around. And then they'll also, another element in a lot of these races is heavy carries, where you're carrying a 5-gallon bucket full of sand or rocks for a distance, or you're throwing a sandbag over your shoulder and going up a hill. And, so there's all those components. You can't be lacking in any of those if you want to be good at them. So anyways, obstacle course racing is amazing, but it is fairly new and it's not as well developed as, a lot of other sports. So there's definitely money in it. I don't have to pay for races anymore because if, when I win, I get a free race. So I don't have to pay for as many races. But really, and there's some cash prizes are bigger than others. I had a sponsor last year that I was receiving. If I won, I would receive a bonus. So there's some money in it. It's definitely been sustainable. I live very simply. I travel very simply. So it's been 100% doable for me. And it's something I would like to go full time in, but it's not really viable at this point. So holding down work and, trying to allow for the training, for enough of the training in the hopes that eventually I can transition more into just racing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And so in order then to sustain this passion that you have and wanting it to become a full-time endeavor, how do you support yourself? What are you? So you're a fitness coach. You are you work at a horseback riding clinic. So how did those two opportunities come into your life?
Yeah. I've always loved horses. As soon as I started working, I wanted to work with horses. So I've worked at horse barns around Texas, and that's actually what I went out to Virginia for, was to work and train with horses.
Wow.
So it's been something I've always loved and been interested in. The other thing, I love children. So I've been a nanny for years, done a lot of babysitting, nannying, and when moving out to here, I've also done some of a lot of horse barns, because horses are the most amazing animals ever. They're used a lot for therapy, for different, veterans therapy, for veterans and, of course, disabled people, for really anything. I don't know, there's just so much. They're such huge, beautiful animals, yet they're so feeling and like just. I think it's awe-inspiring to be around them because they're such powerful, graceful animals, and yet they're so gentle, and they sense and feel so much from humans. It's just like it's a really neat interaction. But yeah, so I found a horse barn out here that works with disabled, challenged children, and we do therapy sessions with them, and they get to come out once or twice a week and just spend time with the horse, either working on their fine motor skills, working on speech skills, behavioral skills, all kinds of things where, around a horse, you can't just run around and be crazy. You have to respect the horse. And when you respect the horse, there's rewards to that. They respect you back, all those kind of things where there's so much you can help people learn. It's an avenue for teaching where, kids that may not connect well with people that have issues, behavioral, mental, all that kind of things. A horse is can't think of the word, but basically like an avenue of a different avenue of interacting with kids like that.
Yeah.
So it's been a really, I do a lot of behind the scenes work with that. I do a lot of the, scooping manure, water buckets, hay, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And which I love that as well. But getting to work with the kids is a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
And then
go ahead. Yeah.
And and then also my gym has been really supportive and really awesome, and working with the coach and all the amazing people that come out here. They gave me the opportunity to go and get it certified, and I coach some with them now.
So with the coaching in particular, then, are you a certified obstacle course racing coach, or are you just a general fitness?
It's actually through a fitness academy in Austin.
Okay.
Called Onit Academy, and it's just a basic exercise movement. It's basic exercises and movement to where you're moving your body in a safe, healthy way while lifting weights, working out. So this is for people of all levels. This obstacle course race gym, they help. I guess their approach is basically obstacle course races are really good motivation to make changes in your life, to get more fit, to eat healthier, all these kinds of things where it's a tangible something to work toward.
Yeah.
So they kind of the approach is kind of to use that as an incentive. We have these fun obstacles where you can get on these really long monkey bars, work on it for several weeks, several months, whatever, and accomplish it. And you get that feeling of accomplishment where losing pounds, losing inches, that's a feeling of accomplishment too. But the accomplishment of being able to do something new and, move your body in ways you weren't able to. We have older people that come and work out, and, reaching down to get something off the floor is so hard. But when you learn to safely move your body in that movement while working, and get your body used to that, and all your bones and joints working correctly, it becomes that much easier. So that's kind of the certification is not so much on the obstacle course but more on basic fitness and health, because that's, we do group classes several times a day with just, hey, let's, learn these basic movements, some basic weight, and get fit and lose weight and be able to move your body the way it's supposed to move,
Yeah. And it's really cool that you use those obstacles as kind of an incentive, a way to inspire people and, get them interested in this fitness. Is just like you're saying, how you started obstacle course racing in the first place. You hated running, but having those obstacles in the middle of a race helped you overcome that mental barrier, and you just loved that break from the race. And so approaching fitness in that way, and two, having the opportunity to marry these two passions together. So being a coach, working on your own athletic journey, but then also having the chance to work with children and horses too. It's amazing that you are pursuing these two paths simultaneously and just going all in with them.
Yeah, absolutely. it's a perfect setup.
And so with this, I mean, these two paths that you're on, how did the opportunity come up to be a contestant on this season's Titan Games?
Yeah, so it was actually at a race once. Somebody had said like, "Hey, have you seen that Titan Games thing?" Because people had been seeing it. I'd seen it on Instagram a couple times, and I didn't even consider it. I thought I've seen American Ninja Warrior and thought that would be kind of neat, but I doubt I'd be, that great at it. But he had said, he had sent in an application, or I guess the Rock had said something about needing more women, and he said you should go ahead and apply. They need women. You probably have a decent chance because you're a good athlete at what you do, and maybe you have a chance. So I thought, well, maybe. So it was in like mid-April, which was the initial first cutoff date.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, this is the last day to try. I might as well. So I went ahead and sent in an application. I didn't even have a video made. I just had a clip of me, working out. I think I was walking on my hands because I do handstands a lot. But I just thought like, I'll give it a shot. What's the hurt in trying? So I sent it in and didn't really think much. I told my coach about it and he was all, yeah, like, I doubt you get picked. We'll keep training for what we're training for. And there's no reason to change things up just because you apply, and the chances of getting on were pretty slim. But then they called me back probably like a month and a half later or so and said they'd been going through applications and mine stood out and they wanted to talk more. And I was like, really? You realize who I am, right? So anyways, that was several Skype calls and corresponding back and forth with them. And finally, a couple weeks later, they said the guy that I was working with, Brian, was really, really helpful with, helping me put together something to present, I guess. And so I guess they pitched me to their producers. And then I got the call saying, hey, we want you to come out to our combine. So I went out to their combine in July. And this was, they had said it was a physical and medical combine just to make sure you're physically fit and medically able to compete, really, And so I was like, well, let's go. This is, they got us out there, and I showed up there. They picked us up from the airport, and I got in the van with two other girls that were like pure muscle. One of them is a power lifter that, deadlifts 450 pounds. The other was a CrossFitter and a police officer. And I was like, I am in the wrong place. But then I kind of throughout the weekend, I was like, I don't think this is really my jam, but I'm just going to enjoy this experience. Like, this is fun. And all the people were really neat. And I did like, though, how the testing that they did, it was a full athletic testing. So it wasn't just weightlifting. It wasn't anything specific. They had a little bit of everything. And I felt like there were things that I was good at that, were definitely my strengths. So I did have that feeling of like, well, I don't think I really fit here. I don't think this is my thing. Like, I'm kind of the odd one out here. There were a couple other less bulky people, but most of them were pretty strong, pretty impressive looking people. But yeah, I left that and I thought, well, I did good in what I could do good in. And if I we found out through the course of the weekend, not everybody that was at the combine was going to be on the show. They had to, trim some down. So there was a thought like, if I'll make it on, that would be pretty cool. But if not, I would kind of expect that. Like, I don't know if I would pick me. So then it was, just a waiting game of a couple weeks. And then they called. And of course, Brian called me like the first week of August, I think. And it was he played it up really well on, not everybody can make the show, but I don't have to tell you that. And you made it.
Oh.
So after that, it was like, well, like, how do we train for it? And they still wouldn't tell us what it was going to be, what the competition was going to be. So we just kind of, based off of the combine, I honestly, I think I wanted to base it off of how everybody else looked. It's like, I need to be stronger. But I had, I still had races going on throughout the next several months. So I was like, well, I'm training for my races. So I'm keeping up with my running and with all of my conditioning that I do for that, but threw in a little more weight than I typically would do. And my coach did all this. So yeah, he did a really good job of like, well, and I think it helped me too to not put too much pressure on it and not to, get in my head and psych myself out. It was like, well, I have these races to train for still. Like I want to do well in these races. And if I stay trained up for what I'm good at, I'm going to be a fair competitor in most anything. So it was just, kept up with my training and well, I was really excited. I had never really spent time in California. So then when we went out there for the filming, it was really fun to, on the days we weren't filming or in between, to go hiking and go down to the beach and just had fun in LA. And of course the filming was a really, really neat experience too. But that's, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I ended up there. It's just kind of, well, why not? And then, wow, it happened.
Right. Again, so it's just seizing those opportunities as they come up. And like you're saying, you changed your training, but you were already prepared for it because you'd been training for obstacle course racing. And so even though you perceived that, oh man, I need to be stronger, I need to look a little different, it was just you had already been in that state of preparedness. So whatever
Right.
came, you were ready to go after it.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
So, Kris, with this experience that you had on the Titan Games, just going through the combine and then competing and meeting all of these individuals, these other Titans, I wonder, what would you say is your definition of a Titan, and how do you believe that your experience on the show this year will now carry over into the rest of your life?
I would say being a Titan, I guess from my experience, being a Titan and being, somebody that was on the Titan Games, that kind of thing. Being a Titan, what got me there, what got me through that was never settling. I never want to settle. I never want to say, oh, that's enough. I've arrived.
Mm-hmm.
That's good enough. I'm happy. I'm fast enough. I'm strong enough. I never want to reach that point. So for me, it's constantly, what else can I do? What's harder? What's more challenging? What is going to push me more? What is going to grow me as a person and challenge me as an athlete? And that's what, the Titan Games, well, this is crazy, but why not give it a shot? And so I guess it's kind of um, I want to never stop challenging myself and never saying no, like within bounds, but don't say no to things for any reason other than it's unhealthy, it's harmful, like those legitimate reasons for saying no. I guess never say no to taking chances and trying something new.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess moving forward and taking chances, taking advantage of any and every opportunity that comes your way.
Yeah.
And that, yeah.
I really like that. I really love the piece that you said, just never settling. So knowing that you've never fully arrived, you have to continually set these goals. And like you said, you're in this constant state of preparedness. You're ready for whatever is thrown at you, but it's just never feeling like I've accomplished everything. I'm done now. You want to continually be better at everything that you do. So setting
Right.
those goals, not settling for anything less. I love that. I love
Absolutely.
that. And so, Kris, just knowing that you've accomplished so much at such a young age, and with your racing, with your working with children and horseback riding, and just all of these different passions that you're pursuing, and knowing too that you're now in this obstacle course racing circuit, you're pursuing that full throttle and setting these goals for yourself, and you're going to achieve so many more of them. I just have one final question that I ask all of my interviewees. What do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered for never taking life for granted, never taking a day for granted. I don't want to waste a day of my life, any moment of my life. I feel like I missed so many chances and opportunities as a child growing up. And I mean, no day is ever wasted, but I definitely did not live those days, those years to their full potential. And now that I have the chance to, I have the opportunity to, I never want to do anything less than the most that I can do. I want to live each day to its fullest and each year to its fullest. And, it's a beautiful life, a beautiful world, and to do anything less than the most you possibly can, to me would be not a waste, but not the best you can. And I want to live the best life that I am capable of.
Thank you all for tuning in to today's installment of the Athletes of the Titan Games podcast. To learn more about each of these Titan athletes, be sure to check out their information in the links in my show notes. Furthermore, to stay up to date on all things coming out of the Keep Moving Forward Creators Studio, be sure to subscribe to the Keep Moving Forward podcast iTunes channel and follow along on social media, also available in the show notes. As the creator of the Titan Games, Mr. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson says, "Titans aren't born, they're made." And I hope today's story helped you realize all that you are capable of becoming if you put in that hard work and just keep moving forward.